I remember. Everybody has a different recollection too, because we all met each other at different times too. You know, I remember meeting Ty and I remember meeting Jerry, and I didn't even know that they had even met each other. And you know,
where were you?
Well, I had moved to Houston. I had moved to Springfield, Missouri to join a band, and Jerry was so happened to be joining the same band, and that's how we met. Through that, I saw Ty playing at a spring fling at the college, and he just got up and played this one lead. I didn't hear any guitar through the whole song until it went to the lead. I don't even know what the song was. Ty did a lead, and it was a typical Ty Tabor lead, and I was like, this is really good. And I go, that's the guitar player. Who is he? And nobody knew. And finally, I asked a bunch of people, and actually a friend of mine that I was hanging with actually did some research and found out who he was. And he says, his name's Ty Tabor. Then I went over to Jerry's house that night, actually, and I told him, and his wife looked his name up in the dictionary. Yeah, I mean, not the dictionary. The dictionary.
Ty Tabor.
You know,
What did it say about that?
I am pretty popular.
she found his name in the directory, the college directory, and she called him up. And then she handed the phone to me, because I was real shy. I was afraid to call, you know. And she dialed the phone to me, here. You know, so it's all her fault. So she better not complain about this.
That was where I first saw you guys. Was at a Phil Keggy show, and I was playing for a band called the Tracy's Inn Band, and Tracy's drummer had just quit the week before the gig, and it was a really big gig for us because it was like 10 bands in this gymnasium.
No, it doesn't.
Doug and Jerry were playing with Phil Keggy, and that was the headline gig, and we played right before you guys.
Was it?
Yep.
Yeah, I had no drums, and our band had no drummer, and they asked me to play drums, and I had never even practiced drums with them on this stuff, and I said, well, I'll try. So the way I met Jerry was I went up to him while he was setting up his drums and said, hey, I play in the band that's going to be playing right before you guys. Do you mind if I use your drums?
It's sort of like, excuse me. Could I use your drums tonight? I think the first time I ever played with Ty was in the Tracy's Inn Band.
Yeah, in the
we
studio.
We were doing a demo over at Greg's church.
Right.
I remember Ty sitting over in the corner, just playing these leads, just playing guitar. I'm going, man, that guy can play the guitar. I like what he's doing.
And he was 18 years old.
Unusual at that time.
Jerry ended up joining the Tracy's Inn Band, and we did gigs together for months. At the same time, Doug and Jerry were still doing some stuff with Keggy here and there. I mean, we crossed paths with each other. I was playing with Jerry, and Jerry was playing with Doug, and then me and Doug were playing together, but none of us all three at the same time. Matter of fact, me and Jerry played for another thing, Greg Voll's band, too, and we
sure did.
Well, I was out with Carl Henshaw's band.
That's right. That's right.
Singing My Scrotum.
Yes, sir. Oh, goodness gracious. I really did that, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
I didn't know what scrotum meant. I'm sort of sheltered, okay? I listen to music, that's about it. But we were on stage, man, and we were doing a sound check, and I was doing a mic check, and I kept going, my scrotum. And it was this Christian college. And it was like the lunchroom, too, and these people were eating and stuff, you know, and I'm just over and over and over again. I mean, I sang it like a whole lot, and nobody said anything to me. But that was Carl, though. Carl loved to do that. Carl got a kick out of watching me make a fool out of myself.
Yeah.
Carl was our first sound man, and he owned the PA. Mm-hmm. So everywhere we played, everybody thought we were the Carl Henshaw band because all our equipment said Carl Henshaw on it.
I remember saying to you, Ty, would you like to play together? And I remember when I asked you, Jerry and I had already made a commitment to stick together. I mean, I remember we verbally talked about that before we even met you, right when Phil left. And I said, we're going to stick together? And Jerry said, yeah. Because I figured I found the drummer. You know, this is cool. Now all we need is a guitar player.
Doug was the instigator of actually the bright idea of calling all of us and saying, hey, why don't we all play together in the same band?
I was searching for answers, trying to find signs. When I thought I found them, I slipped away in time. Searching like an owl.
Somehow we all ended up living in the same house except for Jerry and his wife and kid. You only had one boy then, right?
Yeah,
Jeremy.
just Jeremy at the time.
And they had their own place, but the rest of us and the crew and everybody working with us, plus friends and everything else we could pile into a house, lived in Doug's house, a 2-bedroom house, and
Yes,
sleeping
sir.
on the floors and stuff.
There's a lot of us there. We lived in the shifts because like Ty and well, there was like 4 people would stay up all night watching TV and just having a great time and sleep all day. And then the other 4 or 5 of us would sleep all night and get up all day, and it was always a conflict.
Getting together.
One thing though I think we all wanted to be is real melodic and real heavy, which is something that there wasn't too many bands doing. Cheap Trick was like that kind of. But we wanted that heavy melody kind of thing happening. So we've been trying to do that ever since. As soon as we became officially a band, everybody had friends who wanted to be roadies and hang out. And
By the way, who all was in the band originally?
okay, originally there was Dan McCullum and Ty and Jerry and me. The first phase of it.
And Dan played guitar. We had 2 guitars in the early days.
Yeah, Dan quit after the first gig. Remember the famous Twilight Zone show? I still have that on tape.
I do too.
Yes, sir. That was a good show. Drum Boogie.
Oh man, I love listening to that.
It was a little club called the Twilight Zone. It's probably as big as, wasn't even as big as somebody's garage, 1 car.
The guy had the bright idea to start having some, like, garage bands come play. Only place we could possibly get a gig, because they would take anybody, because they just needed a band. Basically, after Dan left, we wanted to have another guitar player. We liked having...
You wanted to have another.
Yeah, I wanted to have another guitar player. I liked being in a band with 4 people
I remember that.
instead of 3, because it was just fun to me. I had always been in bands with other guitar players where you could play separate parts together, and play off of each other.
Right.
And I felt totally intimidated by the idea of being 3-piece. So I suggested a friend of mine from Mississippi I'd gone to high school with, a guy named Kirk Henderson. And I called Kirk, and he packed his bags, came out to Missouri, joined a band.
Immediately.
It's just like, okay, I'll leave home and forsake all and join this nothing band. I'll be right there. We were called The Edge, and Kurt played with us, and we did a few more Twilight Zone gigs, and we got a few more like really crap gigs like that in a few places, and started getting a reputation. We started out doing all originals. Twilight Zone, just total originals, and some really bizarre ones at that. This one place was Little Rock, Arkansas. It was the best gig we had. A place called the Wine Cellar. I say the best gig, it was the best paying gig we had. It was the most hellish nightmare gig we ever had.
Was it 6 sets?
It was 5 or 6 sets, but like till 4 or 5 in the morning. And I mean, hellish gig, because even if nobody was in the place, and a lot of times that was the deal, nobody was in the place, we had to keep playing. The bar owner said, you play your sets regardless in case somebody comes in. And I remember one time we played, and literally Steve and Carl, who we were talking about, Steve our manager and Carl our sound man, they even got up and left while we were playing. And at one point, even the person behind the bar, because nobody's in the place, including our own crew, left. And we're sitting there playing, and I look around, and there is literally not a single human being in sight in this place, and we're doing our gig. And
I remember one time at the same place in Little Rock, there were, I think 2 couples came in. There's 4 people in the whole place. We were up doing our gig. And the next thing I know, those 4 people are just slamming each other as hard as they can. Just the guys punching the girls in the face, bottles being broke on their heads.
So this girl turned around with a fist and just punched the guy. Just bam, you know.
I mean, literally, somebody got a pitcher and went whack against somebody's face, cut it all the way open.
We
4
still
people in the
played.
club.
Just kept playing.
We kept on playing.
Maybe we should wait.
For the bird?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's cute.
I don't know if we'll be able to hear over it.
He's far away.
He's loud.
Hey!
And then eventually Kurt quit. Also, he just never really, I think he always felt a little out of place in the band.
He told me, he said, you guys are a 3-piece band. You've always been that way. He said, you guys connect. And he says, I just don't feel a part of it.
The Edge!
Whoa. We had a gig to do at the Hangar. It's a club called the Hangar in Springfield. And so we rehearsed, you know, we got a whole new set.
And we had been pretty popular there as the Edge.
Yeah, we were pretty popular there. And we went down to play the gig 3-piece. And we were doing all these new songs that we weren't familiar with or weren't used to. And we were real nervous. And I'll never forget the feeling on the stage. It was like being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then we did the show. I was even singing lyrics that were so wrong in certain songs that it was like almost heresy, you know. And, well, somewhere during the night, we decided to unveil our new name, you know.
Whoa.
And so we made a big deal of, we got a new name. We're not called the Edge anymore. Blah blah blah. And Jerry did a big drum roll, you know.
All right.
And all our friends and fans were sitting out there. And I said, we're called, drum roll, sneak preview. And everybody just went. No clapping, no smiling, just like.
Oh, no. I remember we finished our first set, and I walked off the stage to talk to our friends who had been with us throughout the Edge and loved us and all that. And I sat down with these people, and one of the guys looked at me and said, you know, I really feel for you guys.
Y'all didn't lose any fans by just changing names, did you? I mean,
I think we
they
did.
still followed you, didn't they? You
I
had a
think we
following.
did.
I think we lost a lot
Everybody
of what
just
we
about.
had.
Whoa.
Because everything was different. We weren't
Yeah.
we weren't the band that those people had grew up to remember. You know, we had drastically made a change. We really did.
Your face when I sleep at night, and I'm wishing I could be there holding you tight. If my dream would be true, it would be alright. If I someday get your heart and you become mine, I'll stay with you forever, all of the time. If my dream would be true, it would work out fine. Linda, I would really like to meet you. I would really like to keep you. If there is any way, yeah.
Basically, Sneak Preview existed for a few years, and even by the end of Sneak Preview, the last few gigs we did, I remember we played Sports Club in Springfield, and we were packing the place out again. We had actually gotten ourselves back up to packing places out again, like the Edge had done. And right at that time, we left town. We moved.
Tonight we would like to dedicate this last set to Springfield and all you people that come out to see us, and all our friends, because we're moving to Houston, Texas in about 2 weeks. We're not going to see you for a long time. So we want to say it has been a great 5 years of living in Springfield and getting to know everybody.
You talk loud and clear, but only tell me half of the truth. Don't wanna hear it, don't wanna hear anymore. I know I can't trust you.
So we moved to Houston to work with this record company in Houston that had an artist. And for a trade-off, they wanted us to work with this artist and help him tour a little bit and record an album. And in return, they were going to do some demos with us and help try to shop us a deal. And so we moved to Houston, with big hopes and everything for that reason. Things didn't work out, and here we were in Houston and didn't have money to move anywhere else, for one thing. So we just, we said, hey, we're not from any one place really anyway. So we're all from different states, individually. So we made Houston our home at that point, and that was 1985.
Right around the time we were working for this other guy, Ty wrote a song called Pleiades. And I think, as far as I'm concerned, that's what changed the whole direction and the whole vibe of King's X. Ty took the E string and tuned it down to D and played this sort of grungy, Beatle-ish kind of tune. And it was real retro sounding, but yet it had all this psychedelic, and it was everything I was looking for. I mean, because at that point, I was just so sick of everything that was being played on the radio and stuff. And Ty had written that song for himself, not for us. And he played that song. Well, we were on a plane getting ready to fly somewhere, and he handed the tape to both of us and said, listen to this song, you might like it. He didn't think we would. And it blew our minds. And as far as I'm concerned, that's when we kicked into gear. And then we met Sam Taylor, and we started to hone in on this new sound that we were hearing and putting together.
As we started working on this newer stuff, this newer music, that was really different for us, but really what we wanted to play. We also wanted to change the name of the band again, and we really hated the name Sneak Preview. It just, it was a bad name. So our manager at the time suggested King's X, and it didn't really make us think of any one particular type of music, which was the thing we liked most about it. But we were still trying to come up with other possibilities for names, and I don't even remember what we came up with, but King's X seemed to be the only name that stuck around. And after about a month or two, it seems, of not knowing what the name of the band was. I remember we were in rehearsal one day, and I just looked at everybody and said, "So, are we King's X or not?" And everybody just kind of looked at each other and said, "I guess so."
Well, I had a roommate who was moving away. He just got to graduate from truck driving school, and he was moving to Memphis. And he asked me if I would make him a copy of all of our demos. He just wanted to have something to remind him of as well. He's driving on the road and stuff. Yeah. So I gave him a copy of the old stuff, and against the wishes of the band, basically, I gave him a copy of the new stuff. And he took it to Memphis and ran into a friend of ours, a drummer named Greg Morrow. He listened to the tape, and he said he didn't like anything but the new 4 songs. And he called me up and said, "Man, I love this stuff." He says, "What you been doing with it?" And so I told him we sent it out, and we got rejected and all that kind of stuff. And he said, "Well, there's one company, he knows these people, Johnny and Marcia Zazzulo at Megaforce." He gave me the address and said, "Send a tape to them." So at that point, I realized that I had to go to Sam in the band and say, I did a bad thing here, but let's go for it. So Sam took the ball and took a tape, packaged it up, sent it to Megaforce. Marcia Zazula at Megaforce got the tape, and she has a friend named Sam Taylor, and she thought it was her friend Sam Taylor, not Sam Taylor from Texas. So she immediately opens it. She never would have opened it before that. I mean, because they get tons and tons of tapes all the time. So she opened it and she played it with an open mind, saying, "This, And so she played it and she loved it, and she played it for her husband. According to what she told me, she played it for her husband, and they both loved it too. But Marcia was the one I think that really loved us. Johnny liked us, but Marcia was the one. And so they invited us to come out to New York to play a club called the Cat Club. It's this cool club where just about everybody played in New York at one time or another. We went down there and
played with Black Oak, Arkansas.
Yes, sir.
Opened for him.
Yeah.
Jim Dandy himself.
Jim Dandy to the rescue. And so we played, and everybody seemed to love us.
And that night, Johnny Zazula from Megaforce Records said, basically told us, "You're not leaving town till you sign a contract." And that was the beginning of King's X getting a deal and making records. And there's a whole lot of stories starting from album 1 to now. But that's for another tape, I guess.
You like playing?
People always say that to us. It's something between the three of us, but the other person's always kind of, Anybody that's ever really worked with us, usually in some form or fashion, always moves on, because we are the dominant ones.
Are y'all that tight with each other and just feel good with each other now? And
there's just something between us. That magic that you don't find very often. When you find it, you keep it.